A very warm welcome. Good afternoon if you're in our time zone. Good morning, good evening if you're in a different time zone. Welcome to the final session of Development Studies Week. And this session focuses on current student experience in the Institute of Development Studies, IDS. My name's James. I'm from the International Office, and I'm really excited to be able to introduce you to our star panelists today. We have Linda from IDS.
Hey everyone, looking forward to our conversations.
We have Atish.
Hello.
We have Erlinda.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Carabo.
Hi, everyone. Looking forward to engaging with you all.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So for today's session, some of you might have joined the earlier session we had this morning, looking at previous IDS students, so alumni, and they were sharing their career tips and various things about IDS. So if you didn't see that, you'll be able to see that on our Development Studies Week website. You'll be able to also watch back a video recording of this session there as well. You can also see 5 years worth of content. I think Linda and I are probably the only constant in that. We have various different students from over the years as well joining us. So if your course or your country perhaps isn't represented today, watch back on the website because we've got a lot of diversity of courses and students that you might find interesting there. So in terms of a little bit of housekeeping, we have a chat box. If you're familiar with Zoom, you'll see that on the right-hand side. We would ask if you have any questions that you write those into the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will address those. We'll come to those questions towards the end of the session as well. What we would also like you to do is to introduce yourself as well. So we've got almost 30 people who are joining us live today, and we would love it if you could write in your name, what course you might be thinking of studying, the country you're from, and perhaps you might like to share a little bit of detail about where you are, what you might be able to see outside of your window or where you're located if you don't have a window as well. That'll be really useful to get a sense about yourselves as well. So I think that's it in terms of housekeeping. I'll write some notes in the chat box along as we go. And without further ado, I will hand over to Linda.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, James. So, hello and welcome to everyone who's here today. I'm so excited to be able to share with you some knowledge, some insights, and some general thoughts about IDS. So, IDS is the Institute of Development Studies, and we live on the University of Sussex campus. All the photographs in this slideshow are pretty much all of them. I think there's only one that doesn't come from IDS. So they'll give you a sense of what IDS is like as we go through. And while I'm doing that, it's lovely to see the introductions coming through. Hello to Tino Tende, if I've said that correctly. I'm sorry, from Harare. And to everyone else who's joining us. Do put your names in the chat and let us know how you're doing. Okay. So let's see if I can. Have I shared my screen? No, I haven't, have I? Have I shared my screen, James? No.
No, not at the moment, Linda.
All right, sorry. Let me just do that first. Otherwise, my presentation is not very helpful. All right. Can everyone see my presentation now?
Yeah, we can say it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So, as I've said, I'm going to share information and knowledge and insights into IDS and what it's like to be at IDS. And again, as I've said, all the photographs are from IDS, so it'll give you some insight into what IDS looks like and feels like. Let's see if I can go forward. Nope. There we go. So IDS is an institution that is based on the University of Sussex campus. And we're a charity, but we work very, very closely with the university and we deliver master's and PhD degrees under the auspices of the University of Sussex. So the University of Sussex ratifies our degrees and we do more than just deliver degrees. Well, the university does more than just deliver degrees too, but we do more than deliver degrees and we do a lot of research and learning in relation to development broadly. So IDS's mission is to deliver world-class research, learning, and teaching. And we don't just want to teach and learn and do research for research's sake or for teaching's sake. It's really important to us that that knowledge, action, and leadership is used to bring about a better world. We want a more equitable world. We want a more sustainable world. We want a world where people can live their lives free of poverty, free of injustice. So we want a world that is much more mutual arrangements, less hierarchical, less pollution, less toxicity, and where people aren't treated differently because of who they are or where they live or because of their financial circumstances. So this is IDS's mission, and we work really hard to achieve this mission. As I've already said, we work in partnership with the University of Sussex, and it's a very good and close partnership, and it's lovely to be here today with James and others. So the University of Sussex accredits our degrees. That means that if you come to IDS to study, you will attend a University of Sussex graduation with IDS people present, and you will get a degree that says both that you've graduated from the University of Sussex, and underneath that it will say the Institute of Development Studies. And between IDS and the university, we share the British Library for Development Studies, which is a very old and rare library, which has incredible documentation going back to the 60s and 70s that researchers collected on their travels and brought back to IDS and to the university. And all of you can use and access that library. So with the University of Sussex, IDS has been ranked #1 in the world for development studies for the last 10 years. So every year we have to wait. Like I gave a presentation, was it in March? And we were just waiting to hear whether we were going to be ranked #1 again or not. So I have been DTL at IDS for 10 years. So every year I've been DTL, we've been ranked #1 in the world, which is just amazing. And I'm very grateful to the University of Sussex because it's a ranking we share, but it's great to have it. So IDS, as I've told you, is based on the University of Sussex campus. And this is a picture of IDS in autumn, just as the leaves are changing color and falling off the trees. We're based on the University of Sussex, and we think of ourselves as being a building. We have our own building. That's a luxury. And because it means we can operate in a nice cohesive way and all come together to get at the same time. All of our lectures happen in the same building. All of our talks happen in the building. So it gives us a lovely space to share. We're a charity. So everybody who works at IDS works for a UK charity. And we think of ourselves as a collaboration of global partners. And for me, the most important thing about IDS is that we are a community. So we work really hard. We're not very hierarchical. Our students call me Linda. We don't have lots of status and hierarchies. And we try very hard to create a community within IDS where everybody cares for each other and looks after each other. So at IDS, we have a lot of postgraduates. We only have PhD and master students, no undergraduates. And we have a lot of professionals. So everybody who works at IDS is employed to work in development. So they will be talking to governments, they'll be writing policy documents, they'll be doing research for big organizations. And their primary focus is to do the work of development. And in addition to that, we obviously do our teaching, and that's great. We love that combination of doing work in development and doing our teaching. It's that combination, we think, that helps us. The teaching keeps us right on top of all the debates, keeps us really focused. We know what's going on and what's happening. And the actual work we do gives us a real sense of what's happening on the ground, how debates are shifting, what funders and NGOs and governments are thinking, and we can bring that back into our teaching. One of the amazing things about IDS is we really value and prioritize and want diversity. So we don't believe that everything your lecturer tells you is always automatically correct. We value different perspectives. We value people bringing their experience into the classroom. We really want to hear different angles, different sides. I don't know if you know about Donna Haraway. She says, we get objectivity through partial perspectives, many partial perspectives, and that really helps us in development. We really want to prioritize social justice. That's important to us. And one of our key strategy elements is we want to train the future leaders for development. So every student who comes into our building, we believe has the potential to be a leader in the future. And we know that given the situation in the world right now, and you are all very aware of some of the terrible things that are happening, we are going to need great leadership in the future. And we really have a lot of emphasis and a lot of hope for our students that they can pick up those roles and become those leaders that we're going to need so much. So the IDS community, every year we have students from over 50 nationalities, a really unique, diverse learning experience. And when you come to IDS, you'll join an active community of people from around the world. Everybody works on social justice. Some will work more on gender, some will work more on governance or globalization or pollution and environment or health, but everybody's concerned with social justice. And we have a very strong alumni network of over 4,000 members. And from the very minute you start studying at IDS, you can join the alumni network. They will do mentoring and they will engage with students to help you. So onto our degrees. We have 8 degrees at IDS, master's degrees. So they're ranked in different kinds of ways. We have a degree, the MA in Development Studies, right at the top in red. It's all about choice. This is our youngest, newest degree, and it's our most popular degree. And this degree gives students the maximum choice around topics, around areas they want to study, the kinds of things they'd like to focus on. Then we have 6 degrees that are all about key development themes, issues in development. So these are specialization degrees. We have the MA Food and Development, which is a shared degree with the University of Sussex. So students doing this degree will be both at IDS and at the University of Sussex. We have the MA Globalization, Business and Development. It's an IDS degree. It is all about how business and globalization engage with development. It is not an MBA. It's about thinking critically about the interactions between business, globalization and development. Again, shared with the University of Sussex, we have the MSc Climate Change Development and Policy. It's a very popular degree, and the focus is very much on climate change. And this degree is also a little bit more scientific, and it has more science in it. Then we have the MA Gender and Development, one of the oldest, well, the oldest degree on gender and development in the world, and one of the longest running degrees at IDS. Followed by the MA Governance, Development and Public Policy. And again, this is all about governance and public policy, and you'll hear more about this. And then we have the MA Poverty, Policy and Development Practice. This used to be called the MA Development and Policy and Poverty, but sorry, let me get that right. This used to be called the MA Poverty and Development. But last year we updated it, we revamped it, we spoke to alumni and students who'd studied the degree and their work, and based on their feedback, we've given it a much more policy and development practice focus. And then we have one degree, which is all about reflective practice and action, which is the MA Power, Participation and Social Change. This degree is all about not just understanding other people, but also understanding yourself in thinking about how you engage with groups. And it's about working collectively with organizations to bring about social change. And then, of course, some people who are here today might also be interested in doing the PhD by researching at IDS. So I'm going to move on now and to give you a chance to hear from some of our students about what they've been experiencing at IDS. So the first student I'm going to ask is Karabo, and I'm very excited that Karabo is here because she listened to this talk last year and then reached out to me. So I'm so excited that she's chosen to join us today and talk. Karabo, over to you.
Thanks, Linda. Hi, everyone. So as introduced, my name is Karabo Asala. I am from South Africa, and I'm really glad to be talking to you all today. So as I speak, I hope you'll be able to spot me in the picture that is on the slide. So this was a picture taken on the very first day of IDS. This was the orientation week in September of last year. So I'm very happy to be talking to you about my program and why I am passionate about this master's in particular. So, my academic journey actually started in nursing. I was working in rural and peri-urban communities in South Africa. And I was at a period in my life where I was trying to figure out where I wanted to transition. I was always passionate about healthcare, but I wanted to maybe focus on development to really tackle the root causes of why there were healthcare inequalities in the first place. And so I started doing my research online, and then I came across the Institute of Development Studies. And there were, of course, many other programs around the world, but I chose IDS particularly not only because of his outstanding credentials, of course. I think, as my fellow panelists have said, it is the first in the world. It's ranked number one globally for development for 10 years running. But aside from that, there were several other reasons as to why I chose this program. And one of the key reasons is that the MA Governance, Development, and Public Policy that's offered at IDS is the only one in the world, from what I've researched about, that sits at the nexus of governance, development, and public policy. So I really wanted a program that would allow me to focus on all these three intersecting factors together. And I believe that it would equip me with the necessary knowledge to tackle the healthcare inequalities that I came across during my nursing practice while I was in South Africa. So, working at the front line really showed me how inseparable health inequality and development really are. And I felt that doing this MA would afford me the opportunity to actually delve into those key issues. And of course, it helps that IDS is ranked number one globally. But my experience so far has really been great. I love how interdisciplinary the modules are. I'm constantly questioning assumptions that I had previously, learning new things. And the great thing about IDS is you're not just reading from a textbook. You have active researchers who are bringing in their findings, who are bringing in their research into the classroom. So you're not just going to be fed a lot of information on slides that have no connection to the real world. And that is really what makes IDS so interactive and interesting. Um, I've also been engaging with a lot of students. I mean, the picture that is on the slide is one that has a lot of my classmates. This isn't the complete cohort, but these are the classmates that were there on the day. And in this picture alone, there are over 20 nationalities. And I think that says a lot about the kind of international community that IDS itself has. And there are students from over 50 nationalities worldwide, Latin America, Southeast Asia, Africa, etc. And these are all people that have worked in various fields, spanning from development sector work, NGOs, to some even working at the World Bank. So it's always interesting when we are responding in the classroom and you're getting to learn so much from people who have been active in the field and who are able to share their personal experiences with you. And what I also find really great and amazing about IDS is you're allowed to say your opinion, you're allowed to disagree, and we debate respectfully and meaningfully with one another. So you don't always have to be agreeing with everything. And I think that's really what makes it intellectually challenging. So, one other aspect of my experience here before I close it off, because I could go on and on about IDS, but aside from the classroom, I found it quite challenging for me to just be at IDS and not want to involve myself with so many other things that are happening with the Sussex community as well. So aside from just being an IDS student, I've gained the experience of being a Senate postgraduate representative. I'm an international student ambassador. So these are some of the things that you can also get to do outside of the classroom if you're somebody who really likes extracurricular activities and wants to engage as much as possible with other experiences that can really shape you beyond just what you get from the textbook. So I'd really encourage you all to find out more about IDS. As Linda has said, there's so many other programs that are on offer, and it's not just governance, development, and public policy. I think Atish and Linda as well will also be talking about their programs. So there's so much on offer, and some of the classmates that you have will really leave you with such an enriching experience far beyond what the textbooks themselves can teach you. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Karabo. And if anyone does have questions, please do put them in the chat. We will have time to answer questions afterwards. And also some people will be no doubt starting to answer them already. Karabo said, can you spot her in the picture? There's also a lecturer in the picture, hiding in the picture. And as I said, we don't really have big hierarchies. So for those who would like to know, it's the person just above the what it's like to learn here. The little head is one of the lecturers and a lovely, lovely lecturer. So just out of interest. Right, so moving on, we're going to have Atish Nandi, who's from the MA Globalization Business and Development. Over to you, Atish.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm from India. I'm a lawyer by profession, and I worked for a few years at a law firm doing transactions. Got a little disillusioned, pivoted to policy practice, and then eventually found myself wanting academic credentials and just immersing myself in an academic environment. And so I see a few questions in the chat about people transitioning careers, people trying to pivot from one specific area into broader issues of development. And honestly, IDS is a great place to do that. There are so many options for you to specialize in a specific domain that really puts IDS apart from most other MA programs that you can find out there. Focus on, like, if I were you, I would really focus on what thematic area really resonates with me. So for me, because I was working on digital issues surrounding the digital economy, so how are platforms regulated, how are digital services governed, and given my background in law, I thought, okay, the MA program that focuses on the role of business in development suits me. You could have a background like Karabo mentioned in nursing, and you could, your experience could have then shaped your choice of a specific MA. I would really recommend that everyone does this, thinks about what issues really resonate with them, what aligns with their previous experience, and then make the choice, because IDS does offer you that choice. And that's something to really think about before you apply, and even as you're thinking of where to take your career. It's been 7 months here. The year really went by fast, and it's been such a great experience. I mean, we typically have a 2-hour lecture, and then we have a 2-hour seminar where we discuss whatever we've learned in the lecture that day, and we just have a conversation amongst the cohort. And that's where the real learning happens, because there's so many people, so many different perspectives, as Karabo mentioned, and we've all received a bunch of slides, a bunch of theory, and now it's about us trying to, experience, like, reflect on our own experiences and try to sort of map out, see how that applies to various issues. The year has also been pretty crazy in terms of, the geopolitical upheaval. So there's a lot of new issues that, like, we would literally check the news on the day and talk about how, global development issues and how businesses are impacting the geopolitical changes that we see in terms of, wars, the climate crisis, and so on. I don't need to go into the details there, but there's a lot of discussion that is grounded in real world developments. And that's something that I feel is unique about my particular MA. And then in terms of what to expect, there will be a lot of opportunities to learn from unique perspectives. There are people who've, like, as a lawyer, I didn't really get a chance to interact with. There were people with a background in dance, for example. There are people with a background in journalism, in literature, in music. So, all of these people sitting in a room and learning about, these very relevant development issues really creates a wonderful discussion that we have after every class. So my experience has been great, and I'm gonna be here at this session trying to answer your specific questions. So please drop them in the chat, or we'll engage in the future. So yeah, all the best, and all the best for this. Hope you come here, and we might meet each other in September if you do end up here.
Thanks so much, Atish. That's such a great
Yes.
photo as well. Definitely a future leader in there.
Yeah.
So moving on now to our last speaker from the students, and this is Elinda Joseph, who's from the MA Gender and Development. Elinda, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Linda Joseph, and I'm currently pursuing a master degree in gender and development, and I'm from Malaysia. So before coming to IDS, I worked with women workers in Malaysia for many years. So that is one of the main reasons I decided to choose IDS and undertake this master program, because of its core elements strongly appeal to me. So I will mention specific. There are two particular modules that really interest me. One is the theoretical approach to gender and development, which has helped me to enhance my ability to analyze the intersections of gender and women workers, which area that is really highly relevant to my work. And then the second module that is really attract me is the politics of a gender module, where I have deepened my knowledge and skill in exploring power, governance, and policy making through a gender lens. So, in fact, in last year, during my gender identity and inclusions module, we also explore a wide range of topics and learn how to analyze them from a development perspective. And we also did an exercise like designing a policy brief, which is a very useful skill that I can apply when I return to my country. So at the same time, studying at IDS and the University of Sussex is really enhanced my communication skill. It's broadened my perspective of different culture, because the student community is very diverse, and we consistently have engaging and insightful discussion during seminar. And also another thing that is really interesting in IDS is because it fosters a strong space for collaborations, where students work together in groups, and we also learn from each other context and case studies. And I also truly appreciate the open door policy in IDS, which allow me the flexibility to engage directly with my tutors, because they are expert in their field. For example, in my cohorts, they're really expert in the feminist economics, doing analysis in economic and policy. So it's really provide a valuable guidance for me in terms of my paper and my research as well. And lastly, in the picture that you see in the slide, is actually last year in my cohort, we organized this 16 days of activism campaign at IDS, and it was inspiring to see our work shared on the IDS Instagram page, as well as display throughout the building. So we also organized an orange day. You can see in the picture with all orange. So where everyone like wore orange to show solidarity in raising awareness against gender-based violence. So through this vibrant mix of activities, we had opportunity to really learn from each other and deepen our connections. And yeah, I feel after studying in IDS, I mean, by all this skill and knowledge, I feel particularly in my field, I feel I can really have this skill to develop my evidence-based research skill, that which I can use to support and my advocacy efforts when I go back to Malaysia, and also help the community here. And some tips that I will share here before I end my talk is that I feel it's really important to know what you want and what you gain from this degree. So I feel having some prior experience in the field can be very helpful, as the program is designed to deepen your skill and knowledge, and it's a very practical. So for example, for me, it's really strengthened my analytical skill to understand the gender labor migration. And another tip as well, that to really have time to engage with other students, both within and beyond your cohorts, because as Atish and Karabo already mentioned, that IDS has a very diverse student community with rich experiences and expertise from their own field. So building connection and networking, that is a really a great tip from me. And as well, I encourage, if you come to IDS, there is also a weekly seminar open to both student and the public, where you can also broaden your knowledge. And it's really helpful, especially when other like experts come to share their knowledge and joining this seminar. And lastly, don't forget to have fun, because I feel joining this community in IDS, it's not only that we are like study every time, but I also join a different society. And I know IDS had organized a different events like Deepavali events, a Chinese New Year, or other festivals. So it's really interesting that we can also connect with this culture and study at the same time. So yeah, I think that a few tips that I will share here. So if you have any questions to me, you can also put in the chat box, especially in relations to my program. Yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Linda. And I love the way you spoke about how it's both practical and academic. And I'm so pleased you spoke about the 16 days of activism, because that was such a great time in IDS when everyone was reading and thinking and being aware of it. So thank you so much. So I'm going to move on now and tell you a little bit more about IDS. So if you want to come to IDS, what are our entry requirements? So firstly, we ask you to have a first or an upper second class undergraduate honors degree. It can be in social sciences, but as you've already heard, nurses, dentists, lawyers, we accept a whole range of different disciplines. We pay a lot of attention to what we call a personal statement. So for our personal statements are really the kinds of things that Atish particularly spoke about, but both Karabo and Linda as well. Why do you want to come? What is it about your work, about the things you've done in your life that make you want to learn more, understand more, tackle these difficult questions like globalization and business and development, or governance and policy and development? So in these personal statements, I really ask you not to use ChatGPT, and really don't tell us you want to come to IDS because we're number one in the world. Tell us things like what Atish said. I worked in a law firm. I got disillusioned because all I was doing kind of tackling the problems, but not solving them. Or like Karabo said, why are people getting sick and we're not doing anything to fix the problems? We're just treating the sick people. Tell us your experiences and tell us what questions your experiences have led you to ask. And that's what we're interested in. Now, we do ask that all students have 1 to 2 years development-related work experience. I know it's difficult sometimes to get work experience, and maybe you don't have all of that in one block. If you're not sure, I would say apply anyway. We will look at holiday work, volunteering work, intermission, and periods where you've done bits of work. If you've worked every Saturday for your father who runs a shop, and you've seen things there that make you want to ask questions, tell us about that. Think about your whole life experience and write your personal statement. Okay? And if we read every single personal statement. And if we're not sure about something, we will come back and ask you. And then, of course, you need an English language requirement. IDS does teach in English. You are expected to write in English. So we do need you to have an English language requirement. But again, you can talk to us about that. Okay, so how do we test you in IDS? So one of the unusual things about IDS is that we have no exams at all. We have written term papers. So these are essays, 2,000 words, sometimes 5,000 words sometimes. Not very many 5,000 words. When I first came to IDS, they used to all be 5,000 word essays, but we've changed that. A lot of group presentations and group work. Group work is super important in development studies. If you go on to work in development studies, inevitably you will be doing group work. You will inevitably have colleagues from different places, different organizations, different parts of the world, and you will work with them. So we do a lot of group work, and we think it's very important. Your final assignment is a 10,000 word dissertation. Unfortunately, Karabo, Atish, and Linda, they've got a few more assignments. all their lectures are finished, and then they'll be working on their dissertations for the whole of the summer. That's at least what I think. But as Linda said, you have to have fun too. They're allowed the odd afternoon off. And then there are a whole range of different kinds of more practical assignments. You might get a takeaway paper or an action research assignment or practical exercise or a group consultancy, or Linda talked about a policy brief. So there's a range of assignments. But yes, if you come to IDS, you will read a lot and write a lot. I absolutely love this quote. This is from Isatou Touré, who's the former Gambian trade minister. She did her PhD at IDS, and a few years ago, she came back to IDS. She did it in MA Gender and Development. And a few years ago, she came back to IDS and she spoke to our students and our staff and about her life, her work, her choices, what she's learned, and it was just amazing to have her. So she said, IDS creates leaders and shapes the world development agenda. IDS has contributed to what I am today, and I'm proud to be a product of this great and reputable institution. I love this quote. I love this photograph. I think she's an amazing woman, and I am sure that many of our students are going to end up like her as well in the future. So this is a very interesting fact, that over the last few years, we've been looking more at employability and how do we teach skills? How do we prepare our students for a future world? It's tricky in development studies because students go all over the world. It's not like they're only going to jobs in the UK or in one country. But we've been trying to understand a little bit better what we can do to help our students. And in a recent survey, 85% of people who'd graduated from IDS said that IDS had helped them to prepare for their career. So we asked them, to what extent can we prepare you for your career? And the vast majority said we do help, which is brilliant. This year, we've got a student doing research for her dissertation on what jobs employers expect in development studies to help us understand that a little bit more. Here are some of the careers that IDS students go into when they graduate. And you can see there's a huge range of different things. We're very proud to have had directors of organizations like BRAC in Bangladesh, or in UNICEF in the Philippines, or, working for the Foundation for Women's Health, Research and Development. We've also or Greenpeace. We've also had people go into the private sector to be, involved with like Vodafone as their global sustainability strategy manager. We've had one member of IDS who became the 4th president of Costa Rica, and he comes back and plays football with the students sometimes, because when he was with us at IDS, he played football a lot. And we've had students who go into being activists and found their own organizations. So these are organizations and careers of people who are working in big organizations, big names, might become famous. But I'm always really, really conscious of all the other students who go back to their home countries or go somewhere else and do all those unsung about jobs, all those jobs that don't make you necessarily very famous, that people don't put you on blogs or on web pages, but every single day in 100 different little ways, they are helping make the world a better place. So when we look at this list of where people have gone, it's always important to me to remember that this list is duplicated over and over and over and over again by all of our other graduates doing amazing work, and we just don't share it and don't have it here. I put this up because last year, I think our alumni presented, some of our students presented they had just graduated. And they said, what can we tell you from an alumni perspective? And the things they loved about IDS was, and we've heard this, I think Karabo said this, learning from active researchers, and then Atish said, contributing and learning from their research, learning from your peers inside and outside of the classroom. So in that sense, IDS is really global. The multidisciplinary nature of IDS degrees. So yes, we have no one degree that's all about economics or one degree that's all about sociology. In fact, we don't even have one module that's all about anthropology or all about geography. Everything we teach is multidisciplinary. The students get to demonstrate agency in their degrees. They have to pitch their research to their potential supervisors. We don't just randomly assign it. And they can launch a whole range of their own initiatives. Students have run workshops at IDS. We've got a decolonization workshop happening, I think, next week. Students can, we had an education workshop. Oh, I'm so sorry. My phone is ringing. I'll just try and switch that off. So they can do things that are not part of IDS, and they can launch these initiatives and carry on and have a range of things they can do. They can carry forward their learning into work life. We've already said that. And there's a lot of work at IDS to strengthen and support academic writing, communication skills, or how to do your assignments. And also, for example, if you really don't want to pitch to yourself to a potential supervisor, we will help you. Someone will come along and help you. You'll have a convener, you'll meet them regularly, they will talk with you, and they'll work with you. So one of the things I love about IDS is we let everybody be independent and do their own thing, and we expect you to show initiatives. But when students struggle, we really step in to help them. At least that's what I think we do, and I hope our students here agree. So you can stay in touch. We have a great postgraduate newsletter. If you scan this QR code or if you log on to our website, which is ids.ac.uk, and click on the Learn button, you can find it. And it's always got really interesting stuff written by our students and what's happening at IDS. And then lastly, just to say thank you for listening to me and to all of our students, and time for questions. So I'll stop sharing now. Thank you very much. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much, Linda, and thank you, Atish, Linda, and Carabo as well. That was really useful and a really great insight into IDS. Thank you, everyone, for all your lively comments as well. It's great to see such a diversity of students. I think, if my notes are correct, we've got somebody from Zimbabwe, Rwanda, India, Ghana, Japan, Canada, Kenya, Ukraine, Philippines, Australia, Nigeria. And that really sort of is reflected in, I think, the class cohorts from speaking to students and people like Linda as well. It's like a real mix of nationalities, which is a really strong feature. Thank you, everybody, for all the questions as well. Thank you so much, Leah. You've been answering some of those with me. But for the benefit of those people who are watching this back afterwards, we might go over some of those questions as well, and talk about some of those answers in a little bit more detail as well. Just before we do that, something which will probably be really useful, I think, for prospective students, and it's something I get asked a lot about by students who are coming in September, is what is the number one tip you have for students who are coming to IDS in September? So I think if I could ask each of you, perhaps Atish, if you'd like to start and just tell me, what do you wish you knew, or what would you say to yourself a year ago in sort of May time?
I think it's really important to understand so there's a huge body of researchers here at IDS, and everybody has their own specialization. All the researchers here, the fellows here, have one area, one niche that they're really passionate about. Try and understand that, and then once you're here, approach them and try and speak with them about that niche. And ideally, if you align with their particular research interests, then there are so many opportunities that can come up down the line. Like, I see a couple of questions about research, being a research assistant and managing that. I got a research assistant role because I met somebody who was working on trade issues that resonated with me. I reached out to them, I spoke to them, and then later on, when there was a call for applications, I sent a detailed application, and it worked out in my case. So knowing what areas the research fellows, and there's several of them, so you need to read up about everybody, specifically within the domain that you are interested in. You should definitely do that. Once you know what they're interested in, and sort of see an alignment, reach out to them, meet them, say hi in the initial months, and just sort of develop that relationship. I think that'll be a great way to start off the year. Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Satish. So yeah, doing your research in terms of the staff members, and if anyone is unfamiliar, there's some really great detail on the IDS and on the Sussex course pages. You can drill down, see the staff, you can see their research areas, you can see all of the if there's any publications or active projects as well. So yeah, that's a really good, useful tip. Thank you. Next, Alinda, do you have a tip you'd like to share?
Tips. Oh, I was hoping to hear everyone else's first. Um, I think the tip Atish gave is very good. I would say attend seminar, not attend your own seminars, which are happen after your lectures, but also attend big seminars where every people present, because that's partly where you do meet people and have those moments of engagement. The other thing I would say is I watch students come to IDS every year and they're always very nervous and they're like, oh, I'm at number one in the world and am I going to be okay and will I survive? And you heard how amazing Atish and Karabo and Erlinda are. You know, you grow at IDS. So I wouldn't feel like there's one answer or you have to understand everything perfectly to talk about it. You will read very difficult articles and some of them won't make a lot of sense. But in your seminar, you discuss them, you ask questions, you talk about them. And it's through that process of learning that you learn and you start to understand things better. So I would say don't come to IDS thinking everyone else is an expert and you're not, or that you have to be an expert. You just have to be yourself at IDS and you have to be open to learning.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Linda. And we'll move over to students again as well. So, Linda, do you have a tip for?
Oh yeah. For me, even before coming to IDS, actually I've been spoken with I think two alumni, those who are study in gender and development. I remember with I forgot her name, but we had a Zoom meeting and I was kind of asking her like what kind of modules or how do I like how what will be the learning or skill I will be learn from this module. So I felt that engaging with alumni before even coming to IDS is really helpful for me to dive into this program in the first month of like in September. And as well, like I also when we are starting the class, it's really important to like start to engage with tutors. I mean, as artist mentioned, for me, I before coming to IDS, I also do research. Like I read all of the profiles, like all the tutors, and in order to understand their backgrounds, which tutor that match with my expertise and my field. So it's really helpful to know their profile. But as well is for me, it's like to really open up, like be open. I know that I have to leave some of my, it's kind of unlearn what you already learned for me. So that it's really like I need to unlearn again and have to come here with open-minded and really want to learn from others, especially with my cohort, because they are coming from different experience in gender field. So it's really helpful. Yeah. So that will be a few tips.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alinda. And Karibu, what would your tip be?
So I think Erlinda and Atish have said a lot of important tips, but I think for me, it's also just about being being able to ask questions and not feeling like you have all this pressure to know it all when you get to IDS. Because as Linda has said, you get to really grow within this space, and it's important to also allow yourself the opportunity to do so. So, engaging in the classroom, being vocal, even if it's a thought that crosses your mind that you might not be unsure of. Thing is, being in a space like this, as Linda said, it being number one in the world, there is a sense of intimidation, I would say, in the beginning, or maybe for some people, there might be a bit of imposter syndrome when you feel like you're maybe even shy to articulate your thoughts. So just don't be afraid of speaking your mind, engaging with everybody, and you get to learn so much more about not only what you're asking about, but also about yourself. And that's really how you grow. I think in the first 2 weeks, I was not vocal in the classroom. I was always just like, listening to what other people had to say. And when I finally got to speak and share my ideas, I I had a lot of students also walk up to me to say, "Oh, that was a really good point you raised in the classroom." So I'd say just don't be afraid to be vocal. Don't be afraid to share your ideas.
Oh, thank you. That's a really good preparation tip, and I think really reassuring for people who are preparing as well, and a little bit nervous about the journey ahead. So thank you for all for sharing that. Just to point out, if you're joining us live, you can check out the chat box. You can book a session with Karabo as well to have a chat with her. If you want to have a one-to-one Zoom session, Karabo is very kindly going to be available in the middle of May, and we'll be calling any offer holders from South Africa, but anyone from any country and anyone who's interested in IDS are welcome to book a session with her there. We also have a few other students. We have Archie and we have Jawinde and we also have Adia as well. So quite a good representation for IDS and they're really useful. So if you're watching this back live, you can just find on our International Sussex page, it says speak to an international student and you can see all of the times that you can book with a current student if you'd like to ask questions you might not want to do in a sort of a public space. We've got about 10 minutes though to go back through some of the questions which we have had. Some of these have been answered, I think, in Linda's really good talk. So we had a question about assessments, which I think, Linda, you sort of you looked at the assessment and the features there and the word length. So we won't go over that one again. We had one question from a student about the PhD programs and whether we're still taking applications. So yeah, a shout out to the PhD programs. I believe we have 3 intakes and Leah has kindly put some information and links into the chat box about that. So I think it's September, January, May, which we have for the PhD applications. Somebody's also asked a related question about whether we have a session for the PhD courses. We don't have a webinar like this, but we do have lots of individual help. And usually with a PhD program, we encourage you to get in touch with the academic who you're most interested in on the website. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Linda, about the PhD side?
Yeah, so I was just typing an answer to it. I realized I've been answering questions again that other people have answered because I was slow to read the chat. For our PhDs, I would definitely suggest you get in touch. You can either get in touch with Steph Watson, s.watson@ids.ac.uk, or teaching@ids.ac.uk. And they will help you in terms of planning it and thinking about your schedule as well. We try to encourage our PhDs to come in January or September, only because we want you to come at a point where things are happening that you can engage with and to settle in as best as possible. The best is September because that's induction and New Year and everybody's starting together. So that's just a preference, but definitely please do get in touch with us. If you email nobody else, email teaching@ids.ac.uk and we will pass you on to the PhD team.
Thanks, Linda. And we've had a specific question about some of the master's courses. So for the MA Power, Participation and Social Change, as mentioned in the presentation, does it involve some activities on site with organizations?
So it does. It's one of the few. It has a group work project, I believe, that involves local organizations and some work, but also the Power, Participation and Social Change Masters has a slightly different dissertation. It's an action research dissertation. So you wouldn't just go and do research of something or a topic. You work with an organization to bring about social change. So there is space for that in the degree, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I think this one's been answered by Kanya, but I think it's probably reassuring for people watching back to hear this. So Kanya says, my background is in biochemistry, but currently work in community development and hope to pursue my master's degree in development studies. Is this transition possible?
Absolutely, yes. It is absolutely possible. I would encourage you when you write your personal statement to think about how the biochemistry work you've been doing or anything related has led you to ask more social questions. But they can also be because otherwise you would go and do biochemistry and use that in development. So just to think a little bit more, but absolutely, Atish came from a law background. We have one of our two of our lecturers have medical degrees. They come from medical backgrounds. Those kinds of transitions are very possible and very doable.
Okay, thanks, Linda. And we had another question from a student asking about the conflict, security, and development course. They understand that's offered by Sussex and now asking if that is entirely independent from IDS or if there's any overlap. But that one would be, I guess, unique to global studies. Is that right, Linda? That's sort of
Yeah.
an IR international development course and have its separate process. Some similarities, and just to stress, School of Global Studies and IDS are literally about a 1 minute walk away from each other. So there is a lot of crossover. And like you mentioned, you do share courses with climate change and development and also food and development as well. But if you're interested in that course, please watch the sessions we have for School of Global Studies on Wednesday on the website, and that will hopefully help. Paolo, I know the program is quite intensive and only lasts 1 year, but I was wondering whether there is any possibility of a short exchange study opportunity at another university during the program.
So it is a very intense year, and the students who are here today will tell you it flies by. You start, and before you know it, it's coming to an end. So we don't have any formalized exchange or study opportunities with other universities. We just introduced a placement-based dissertation, and it could be with another university if you were doing research. So that's a possibility, and that would be during the summer months of June and July.
Okay, thanks, Linda. And Destiny from Indonesia has just put a new question in. Is there any experts in fisheries and remote island development in IDS?
There isn't anyone that I know of that works in fisheries and remote island development. I once did a WWF report on fisheries and women because they weren't involving women in their fisheries work. And we had a member of staff who went on to do research in fisheries, but there isn't anyone at the moment in that. However, one thing I would say is that part of what the degree does, and I hope that all of our students here today will agree with me, is it really allows you to tailor your interests. So, most of our questions and our assessments are quite open-ended. We will say, discuss this issue. I'm trying to think of something. Discuss toxic pollution and hidden hazards in relation to a case study of your choice. So if you then wanted to discuss toxic pollution in relation to fisheries or in relation to small island development or remote island development, you could do that. You can't write every assessment on the same topic, but you can write around a topic. So if you're interested in wind and energy, maybe you could write one piece of work on energy, solar energy, and you could write another piece on wind farms, and you could write another piece on communities living in the vicinity of high energy projects, things like that. So you can build your specialization.
Fantastic. Thanks, Linda. We have a bit of a more of an administrative question here as well. Is there any indication on dates for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship? Someone's asking about when they might hear back. I'm not sure if that's on the Commonwealth side, Linda, or if it's on our side.
I'm not sure whose side I'm not sure where it's sitting at the moment, but I can tell you we had 800 applications last year. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm afraid I don't know. James, can we ask some more questions that our students can answer as well? See, just
Um,
because I can't answer now, I want someone else to do it.
yeah, sure. I'm trying to
Yeah,
pick out a lot.
yeah.
Are sort of, let's have a look here,
I
but we
don't know
have
about the
into
Commonwealth. I'm really
particular.
sorry. We will communicate as soon as we can and post stuff online, but I don't know.
Yeah, let's see. Atish, maybe you'd like to take this question, or you might all like to actually. Someone's asking a little bit about how core and optional modules work. So maybe each of you would like to give an example of sort of a brief overview of the core structure about how many core modules you take, how many optionals, and what you've each chosen. So if we start with you, Atish.
Yeah, I think the MA in development studies has the most amount of flexibility, as Linda mentioned. So you can really tailor it however you want to. You have the most number of options. For the other MAs, we usually have one specific core module that we have to take in term one and term two. The core module directly relates to the topic of the MA. So if it's gender, then it'll be about gender and development and policy. If it's business, for example, my core module is called Business as a Development Actor. The absolute essence of why you're choosing the MA is factored into the core module that you have to take. Apart from that, you have lots of options. So I took an optional module on reflective and creative practices for social change. That's a very unique program which helped me do a lot of introspection and self work on why I care about the things I care about. So that's another option. And then there's options about like I'm studying competing in the green economy. That's a course that focuses on sustainability issues, again, very closely related to business. And then there are modules, and so there's a range of options, and you can pick some that interest you. Like there's a module called Unruly Politics, which looks at all the alternate forms of resistance and articulation of people's sentiments. Or you could pick modules that are closely related to your professional ambitions. So there is, for example, an elective module called Impact Evaluation. So there you study the practical aspects of monitoring and impact evaluation, which you will most likely use in a future career in development. So yeah, you have that option, and it's up to the student to decide whether they want to pursue something they're interested in, or if they want to, work on add stuff to your CV. Sorry, everything adds is relevant to your CV, but just some things that maybe the heart wants and some things that the brain says is important. So it's there is a fair degree of choice, and yeah, I'll let Karabo and Linda come in.
Thanks, Satish. So yeah, everyone, as Satish has mentioned, the MA Development Studies has much more flexibility. So I'm taking the Governance, Development and Public Policy. So in term one, I had two core modules, so I didn't have any electives. But for the spring term or term two, I had the option of various electives to pick from. So it's the reflective practice, it's impact evaluation, multi-sectoral responses to crises. So there are a whole set of options and IDS that will be tailored to your interests as well. So my core modules for this term are democracy and public policy. And then we also had one last year on political economy perspectives on development, which deals on issues on political economy. Public policy for development was another one as well. So when you get into term two, there's a lot more flexibility for you to pick and choose what you want. So I saw a few questions about like the course structure and the contact hours as well. So elective modules have 15 credits. So you are allowed to pick a maximum of two. For my program in particular, I'm not sure how the other structures work. Maybe Atisha and Erlinda can come in here, but for a 30 credit module like health and development, for example, you typically have contact hours of about 10, between 10 and 12 per week. So that would obviously involve lectures as well, and the seminars where you get to discuss the topics that you covered in the earlier session. So somebody had a question on the course sessions when it comes to writing and presenting. Much of the modules do have a group work component involved, and these can also translate to having presentations together where you come together to discuss a particular issue relating to development in either the health and development module or impact evaluation, which I'm also taking this term. So aside from that, there's multi-sectoral responses to crisis and vulnerability, which is an elective I'm taking. So you're also limited, I think, to having about 4 modules. But the great thing about IDS as well, which I'll point out before I hand over to Linda, is you are limited to a maximum of a certain number of electives depending on your program. But if you do have the flexibility within your schedule, you're more than welcome to drop in on some of the sessions that are running during the term. So if you're interested in a particular session in impact evaluation, but you're not necessarily registered for it, you can attend the session as long as it doesn't clash with the one you actually registered for on your timetable. Maybe there can be a skill or two that you pick up in that session that might be useful for you in the future. But whatever module you pick, it's quite interesting. It all relates to development at the end of the day. And I think they leave you to be a well-rounded individual that is able to tackle a lot of development sector challenges.
Yeah, I think from my side is almost similar with Karaba. Last semester I had 2 core module, which is a gender identity and inclusions, and also I learned a lot about critical approach to gender and development. And in gender identity inclusion is actually I learned different issues of field. Like for example, I learned about migration, digital, climate change related to gender. And that is where we have really like a practical skill learning, like policy brief. And in this semester, I have more flexibility to choose optional module, like 2 optional modules with 15 credits. And yeah, I think one module I chose this semester is like a social reflective change. It's really like more about like learning how to use art into practice. So that is really interesting. One of the optional module, and I saw one questions about like a masculine topic in gender and development. We do have one of the session in gender and identity and inclusions. So it led by I think one the professor is expert in this masculinity and gender backlash. So we really learn a lot and how to connect with gender and masculinity and also the patriarchy. So it's really interesting to see this analysis in these sessions. Yeah. So I think that's maybe my.
Thank you, Alinda, and thank you all. Yeah, that was really useful, I think, to see all of the different types of courses you've chosen. Really good explanation about how that works and a breakdown of those courses as well. I think we've come pretty much to the end of our time, but thank you so much, everyone, to have joined us today live, and for those who are watching back. But a special thank you to Linda, Atish, Alinda, Karabo. Thank you so much for giving up your time to talk about your courses, your experience, and IDS as well. I think, Linda, I'll hand back over to you if you'd like to say any sort of closing remarks, and we'll bring it to a head then.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you for sharing all your great insights. That's amazing. I'm very aware some questions came in right at the end, which we haven't addressed. If you email teaching@ids.ac.uk, we will answer them for you and get back to you. One was around more information about the placement-based dissertation, and thank you for telling me there's no information on the IDS website. Again, it's because it's a brand new course, officially only launching next year, but we ran it this year for our students. And also the question on course sessions. All of our degrees do have the same course, what we call core sessions nowadays, which is where you talk about writing, reading, how to answer questions. Every week, students come together, particularly in the first term, with a course convener and discuss those topics. So if we've missed any questions, if we haven't answered anything, email us and we'll do our best to help you. And otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, and good luck with your choices and your applications and your scholarships and everything else. And we hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Karabo. Thanks, Elinda. Thank you, Atish.
Thank
You guys
you.
were brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.